it had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be blue, could make me be true, and even be glad just to be sad thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do for nobody else. Gave me a thrill. For all your faults, dear, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. Hi, I'm Doc Marshall for Lessons.io. Today we're going to look at a nice song. 1924 it was done. Gus Kahn and Isham Jones were the writers of this song. It had to be you. Many people have made this famous over the course of time, and it's one of those favorite songs that we can sing forever. It's very simple, and we're going to play it very simply for you so that you can see what the basic chords are. We'll do it in the key of C. Let's look at the chords here. First we're going to start off with an intro. We'll play a D minor, and then we'll play a G sharp 7, and then a G7. So that'll be 3 chords. We're going to do a D minor, G sharp 7, G7. Those last 2 chords are very easy because we have the same structure. So you notice my fingers don't change. We just move it a half a step down. Okay, so we're starting out D minor, G sharp 7, G7. Now we start the vocal. It had to be you, that's a C. It had to be you, that's A7. I wandered around at D7. Finally found somebody who could make me be true. That's a G7. Could make me be true. True, that's an A minor. And even be glad that D7. Thinking of you, G7. Now you notice that G7 brings us into the C chord, which is our next chord. Remember when we did the first 3 chords, the D minor, the G sharp, and then the G7, where did we go to next? We went to the C, right? So we're going to do that here too. This is the first verse that we've just gone through, and we end up on that G7. So we know when we sing the next part of the song, some others I've seen, we're back to that C chord, okay? Might never be mean, that's the same thing, that's just like we did before. Might never be cross, D7, so far right on track. Try to be boss, but they wouldn't do. Now we changed a little bit different. For nobody else. Back to that D minor. Gave me a thrill with all your faults. I love you still. So we went from that D minor, right, to nobody else. Gave me a thrill with all your faults. We just bring the whole thing up here, 2 frets, to an E minor. Okay, I love you still. That's A minor. It had to be you. That's D7. Wonderful you, G7. And you know where you're going now. It had to be you, right? But anytime you hit that G7, it's probably going to go to that C chord, which is right there. Okay? So let's take it from the second verse and see where we're at. Remember, we ended up on that G7. Now we're going to start the second verse. Some others I've seen, and see, might never be mean. A7, and let me show you something here. Notice that the C went to an A7. Now, this is what they did years ago. Today, we wouldn't do that. We would go C to an A minor, and then we might go to a D7. All right, so listen to that. That sounds correct for the modern folks, okay? Anything from the 50s and 60s up. But this was 1924, so when they went to a C chord, a lot of times they went to the A7 instead of the minor. Okay, so you're playing old songs, that's a good tip to remember, is the minor chord, the 6th chord, instead of the minor, we play a major chord there. That's an idiosyncratic move that they did back in those days, and it's great, no problem. But just to point that out to you. So, some others I've seen might never be mean, never be cross. That's D7, try to be boss, but they wouldn't do for nobody else. Now we hit that D minor. That's different for this part. Remember, in the first verse we didn't hit this particular chord. But nobody else give me a thrill with all your faults, dear. We went from that D minor to an E minor. I love you still. Now we put an A minor in there. Had to be you, wonderful you, had to be you. Now, in the beginning, when I played the song for you, I did something a little bit different here. For nobody else gave me a thrill with all your faults, dear, I love you still. Now, what I did there is I went from the D minor to that E minor, but I just put 2 other chords in. I'm starting on my D minor, drop it down half, at 1 fret, or half a tone, then go up again, and go up again. So that's just one way of going from here to here. Now you can play just the 2 chords, that's fine, that's all you need. Da 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 da, or you can go da 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 da. Because if you notice the vocal, with all your faults, with all your faults, what I'm doing is I'm playing what I'm singing. All right? Okay? So it's just a colorful way of doing it. So the last part of the second verse, just to show it in continuity. For nobody else gave me a thrill with all your faults, dear, I love you still. You had to be you, wonderful you, had to be you. Okay? Now let's look at the strumming that I'm doing. We'll take it from the very top. This is where we started with our intro. We got D minor, G sharp, and then G. Okay? Just watch the strumming. The song. It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be blue, could make me be true. Okay. Notice that I didn't change anything, that the hand is like a metronome, it just keeps going the same way, okay? And that's what you want on this particular song. See, I'm not emphasizing bass notes or anything, I'm just hitting the whole chord. Okay, that's a characteristic of this particular song, and a lot of the old songs back in the 20s and 30s were done the same way. Okay, let's look at something else now. Remember before when we went to the D minor, and then we went to the E minor, right? So it went here, but then we dropped back and went. Okay, we can do that same thing, that little lick. We can do that in the first verse as well. Let's try it from the intro. It wandered around and finally found somebody who, so we're on the D7 now, could make me be blue. That's G7. Now watch what we're going to do. Could make me be true. Alright, we did the same thing. We're on a G7 and we're going to go to the A minor in this particular case, okay? We went from here. Blue could make me be true. But we can do the same thing that we did with these minor chords before. We're on the G7. Drop it back. Okay, so we went from a major chord, and this last one is a minor chord. Very important to understand. See, this one over here, when we did the D minor to the E minor, it's all minor chords. But here, we went from the G7. So that last chord there is an A minor. What we're doing is we're going from the G7 to the A minor. Now then that's okay. You can just do 2 chords, that's fine. But if you want to make it a little fancier, put a little salt and pepper on the meal, if you will. Drop it back, up, and then the minor. See, so those would be your bass notes if you were going to play bass notes. Those are 2 areas in the song where you can put a little flavor to it. Okay, let's go through the chords very quickly, and we'll play those little embellishments too. See, just so you can hear what it sounds like from the beginning, from the D minor. This is the beginning of the song, the intro. Da 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 da. Da da. G7, where are you going to go now? C chord, right? Others I've seen. Da 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 da. A7. Da 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 da. D7. Da 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 da. Da 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 dee. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. It's A minor. Da 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 da. D7. So we are all through the song at that point. We ended up on our C chord. And there you have it. Any questions, just send us a comment or so and let us know what we're going to do for you in clarification or embellishment of more chords. There's plenty more things we can do with the song, but I wanted to get the basics down for you, okay? So this is a very nice song. It Had to Be You, 1924. And send us some comments to let us know what you'd like to do with the song, or a song that you haven't heard us do. We'll put it on the roster for you. Don't forget to subscribe. Very important. And we'll see you next time. I'm Doc Marshall. Thanks for listening.